My 22 female family has not celebrated anything to do with me since I was 12 years old. My dad and his new wife had a baby that year, and I was kind of forgotten about. I'd get birthday presents and such, but no party or anything. I got used to it and started a tradition of celebrating with my friends. We would go see movies or whatever. One of my friend's moms found out and started making me a cake every year for my birthday. When I graduated from high school, I saved enough money to go on a week-long vacation to NYC with my best friend and her mom to see Hadestown. I just finished university, and I'm starting a new job right away. My dad had planned a big party for me as a surprise, but I didn't show up because I went out with my friends instead. When my family started asking me why I didn't show up after my dad had gone through all the effort for me, I explained that he hadn't celebrated anything of mine in 10 years, and I didn't know he had planned to do so this time. Of course, he told everyone I was lying, and so I asked him to post any pictures he had from my birthday parties, extracurricular activities, or high school graduation. He obviously couldn't, and everyone started crapping on him. So now he's mad at me for talking about private family matters. I'm just going to go over there and pick up the few things I have left in that house and just move to my new city without dealing with this anymore. Am I the idiot? Definitely not the idiot. You can't attend a party you didn't know about. He's now mad because you called him out on his lies and proved to his family that he hasn't celebrated anything for you in years. Obviously, it makes him look bad, and that's what he's mad about. You do you. Good luck with your new job and your move. Exactly. And since she went out with friends, he didn't invite them either, probably because he has no idea who her friends are. The party was to show off to Dad's friends, so who cares if OP's friends show up or not? Wow, yikes. That's a great point. Man, I really dropped the ball over the past few years. I need to try and make up for it. I'll throw a surprise party and make sure the whole family's coming. Forgets to get OP there. It would be funny if it wasn't so sad. I can promise you, and I know you're being sarcastic, that the dad did not plan this to make it up to her. She has now become a successful adult, and he wanted an event where people could congratulate him on raising her right. Unfortunately, he was so focused on himself that he forgot to invite her because she was just the topic of the event. He was the subject. It was a party for him. The theme just happened to be OP's graduation. Even ignoring everything else, there's something sadly hilarious about the fact that he didn't even realize OP always goes out with her friends on special occasions. OP, your dad sucks, more than a vacuum. And what a brilliant way of putting him in his place. You were honest with people. He publicly accused you of lying. You proved he was the one lying. He now thinks you're wrong for talking about private family matters. Funny how he was okay talking about them publicly until he got his butt handed to him. I, 27 female, have an older sister, Jane, 30. Jane has been married to her husband, John, 32, for 9 years, but they've been together since she was 17. I've been with my girlfriend, Sam, 26, for 4 years, and we've lived together for 3. Jane and I are quite close and usually tell each other most things, including relationship issues. Full disclosure, for the past few years as I've grown up, I realized I don't really like John. I think he's a bit of an idiot, but I've kept it to myself unless my sister specifically asked. But at the weekend, Jane and I were having lunch at my house, and she was telling me how worn out she's been feeling lately. She works full-time and is the primary earner in their house because John works part-time and plays soccer for a local team on the weekends. She's also in the pre-treatment phase of IVF. She explained to me that when she's home, she always cooks or cleans. She commented that I've never ever complained about chores around the house or that Sam doesn't do any. I told her that's because we split things equally. At the beginning of each week, we jointly agree upon which chores in specific need to be done that week. We both have chores that we love but the other hates, so we take care of those ourselves. We divide the planning and execution of the remaining ones equally. Jane gave me a rundown of chore splits, and it basically comes down to this. He does a few short chores, which she plans, and she does everything else, including the planning chores they do together, like grocery shopping. I told her that she's probably feeling worn out because she's burned out from having to plan everything he does and take care of her stuff for so long. She said that that's unfair. He does do things, and I replied by saying that he physically does things. Still, she does all the planning, and even if the execution of those chores was equal, the division of labor still wouldn't be. She does all the emotional labor as well as her physical labor, and the division isn't even close to equal. She got mad and left. She hasn't spoken to me since, which is unusual. I told our mom because I was worried, and she told me I was an idiot and overstepped because I don't like John. I didn't think that was true, but now I'm second guessing. Am I the idiot? Edit. He doesn't get paid for soccer. It's just for fun. Not the idiot. The truth hurts. Maybe you said it dismissively. Probably could have asked a few more questions, but yeah, you're right, and it hurts. And this guy plays soccer just for funsies? His life sounds great. Their wife does everything. He works part-time and gets to play soccer. Man, good times. You're 100% correct. Your sister's doing both the bulk of the physical labor and the mental load. This will only worsen once she has the children she's working hard for, unless it's handled through individual and couples therapy. Hobbies are awesome, but so is a shared division of labor and a good relationship. You spoke the truth. Jane didn't want to hear the truth. I hope Jane wakes up before the IVF works, because she's paying for IVF to have kids with this man-child. My mind immediately screamed, no! Your sister's angry because she knows you're right. She's creating her own unhappiness by enabling him, and she knows it. To start off, my 64 male, daughter who's 30, and son who's 26, both ended up with very different paths in life. Like the rest of the women in our family, my daughter wanted to go to medical school and study to become a dermatologist, since she wanted a successful job no matter what, and she loved studying skin conditions as well. That meant she was willing to do whatever it took to get scholarships and work multiple jobs, although I tried to help her pay her tuition as much as I could to make that happen. So now she's currently working her dream job and is making a very good living, about $250K a year, and she's very debt-free now, which is something that I'm very proud of her for. Well, my son decided to give up on going to further schooling just so he could help aid his sick mother when her health heavily declined from leukemia around when our son was 14 and our daughter was 18. So to focus more on taking care of his now late mother and then me after I got lung cancer, my son is focused on working only minimum wage jobs just so that he can have more time to care for us. And even if I knew that he probably wanted to go to college and I told him not to worry about us, my son was still so kind enough to decide to focus more on us instead, so that his sister wouldn't be burdened with doing so, and simply because he loved us. Because I feel so grateful and responsible for him sacrificing so much for us, I decided to let both my children know that, when I die, my son is to keep the house, all the possessions that we have in the house, including our car and 80% of whatever money that I have left, in hopes that he could eventually use it to go to college if he wanted to, and that my daughter can have the other 20% of the money, because I wanted to leave her something, but didn't think that she needed the money that much, since she has a well-paying job. For her to be left behind with many of her mother's possessions and whatever my son didn't want to inherit from me. Of course, I did expect my daughter to be somewhat upset about this, with her potentially believing that I'm favoring my son more than her, despite my trying to explain that I'm simply trying to pay back my son for all the help he gave to me, and that I really don't favor him more than her. However, what I didn't expect is the rest of my family, especially the women, to call me as well and berate me for acting misogynistic and that I was punishing my daughter for her successes, when I only wanted to give back to my son for helping me and my late wife. Am I the idiot? And should I reconsider splitting the assets of my will 50-50 before it's too late? Edit. My son didn't become an official full-time caregiver at 14, although he insisted on helping out because he was very worried about his mother and loved her dearly. I was the main primary caregiver for my late wife and continued to do so up until her death. Still, my son was the one who was very kind-hearted enough to want to help me, and he even insisted on taking a full-time caregiving role and giving up on going to college after he graduated high school. So yes, he does have a high school diploma under his belt. Just because he wanted to help me juggle between taking care of his mother and making sure that I can provide whatever financial support I could to his sister. Not the idiot. Your son has put his life on hold for 12 years. He's definitely going to need a bit of help getting back on track. He's significantly behind your sister in making a decent wage. 4 years of school, 3 years of college at least, before he'll be where she was 7 years ago. You're not punishing your daughter for her success. You're rewarding your son for his time and effort. Agreed on the financials, but is it about that? Can OP switch to leaving the daughter some more possessions or keepsakes so she doesn't feel less than? What about things that remind her of her dad and their relationship together? Her brother gets to decide if she's earned that? That was my thought too. The difference in money may sting a bit, but it's you can get his leftovers that got me. It feels personal. I don't want you to have any of my items unless your brother says he doesn't want them. I'm a minimalist, but I'd still be hurt if I was told I couldn't keep a memento from one parent unless my sibling deemed I could have it. Also, does anyone else forget that having a fully paid off house and car is a huge step in today's economy? By giving the son those, most of his adult bills are officially covered, aside from maintaining said property and car and the taxes that come with it. And then the 80% of the money, plus first dibs to whatever items he wants. I mean, it is a bit much to expect her to just be totally fine with all of that. My guess is everyone else, including the sister, in the family sees him as a loafer, mooching off of his parents, using their illness as an excuse. I disagree. I read that his son chose to give up everything to care for OP's wife. Wife got sick when his son was 14. So no, the son didn't make a choice. Son was stuck. OP, you are the idiot for using your 14-year-old son as a home health aide. Depending on where you live, you could have been eligible for a home health aide, but you chose to allow your child to throw away their future for your benefit. I have a nephew, Sean, 21, and a niece, Tara, teen. I love playing the piano, and when Sean was younger, he asked me to teach him. I tried to do it, but he's a very slow learner, and I didn't have the patience, so I told him to ask his dad to go sign him up for a piano class. A while ago, Tara asked me to teach her how to play the piano, and in a very short time, she learned a lot, even faster and better than I expected. So I've been teaching her, and we both enjoy it very much. When Sean found out, he sarcastically told her I was going to get tired of her and stop teaching her after a few weeks. I told him that actually, we've been doing this for a few months now, and she's doing very well. So I will keep teaching her. He asked me why I didn't teach him, and I was honest and told him he didn't have much talent, and I didn't have much patience to deal with him. He thinks I'm an idiot, so I want to know if I am. You are the idiot, simply for the way you handled it. You could have said at the time that you couldn't handle the demands of piano tutoring instead of telling him that he lacked the talent to the point where you couldn't be bothered to continue. And if he actually took piano classes elsewhere, you should have encouraged him. I'm sorry, but OP lacked the talent to teach someone properly. It wasn't that the nephew had no talent. It was just that he was a slow learner, and OP lacked the patience to teach him. So OP is the idiot for blaming the nephew for their decision not to teach him because OP was lazy, not because the nephew wasn't good enough. A slow learner indicates that he was learning. It was just taking longer than OP expected, and OP gave up before the nephew did. I have two brothers, Dixon and Bobby, who are 2 years apart. When Dixon learned to drive, I tried to help him once. He was rude, didn't listen, and scared the crap out of me. I also thought he might crash my car. I told my dad, he needs a professional teacher. I'm not going to teach him how to drive. Bobby was the exact opposite of Dixon. He was respectful, asked questions, listened, and read the manual. He was a delight to teach. When he took his test, he used my car. I let him borrow it a few times when he had a date. Again, he was a delight to teach. Dixon was hurt when he found out that I taught Bobby. I was honest with him and said, you needed someone with more experience to teach you. I'd rather not put our relationship through a nightmare for no reason. When he asked to borrow the car, I told him no, because he had crashed his own car and mistreated my parents' vehicle. But I never said it in a way that implied he was a waste of time and not worth the hassle. He is a human, and just because he wasn't good at a certain skill doesn't make him pathetic or irritating. I didn't feel like I could help you learn piano. You needed more time than I had. You needed a better teacher than I was. You can tell the truth without it being sharpened with malice. You crushed that kid and his motivation for learning the piano, and now you should try to fix this. My wife and I have 2 kids, Annie, female teen, that is hers, and Zoe, female teen, that's mine. We got married 4 months ago. Zoe's very active. She goes to painting, violin, basketball, and ballet classes. She always has to do something and hates having nothing to do. Unlike most teenagers, she doesn't spend much time on her phone or electronics. These are her only hobbies. Now that we're married, my wife asked me to sign Annie up for a class, as I make more than her and she can't afford it. The problem is, I can't afford it. So to do that, Zoe needs to quit one of her classes, which is not an option. I told my wife that Annie never did anything, so why does it suddenly have to change? Like, she was completely fine with playing with her phone all the time for 15 years, but now that it'll be for my money, she suddenly needs to go to a class? And it's fine if she does, but then my wife should be the one paying. My wife thinks I'm a huge idiot. Edit. My wife puts more money in her daughter's college fund, and I do too. If she wants classes for her daughter, she can put less money in her college fund and not expect me to do so. Annie has her own dad, but I guess he can't be bothered. You are the idiot. Why was this not discussed before you were married? When you marry someone, you create a family. Annie may not be your biological daughter, but would you find the money to sign her up for at least one class if she were? Probably. This kind of favoritism will breed resentment among the girls, and worst of all, is a bad life lesson to Zoe. Your description of Zoe is glowing. Annie, not so much. I'm sure Annie will pick up on this. Have you ever thought that Annie spends more time on her phone because she hasn't been given the opportunities to take classes like Zoe has? That should change. Finally, both kids have phones, but no one can afford one additional class? I'll never understand this thinking. This is a tough one, but I think I'll go with not the idiot. From your edit, it seems your wife doesn't want to take money from her daughter's college fund, which is where she puts all her extra money. Instead, she expects you to drop one of your daughter's activities to pay for hers. That's what I think isn't fair. It's not really that she doesn't have the money, it's that she puts her money elsewhere. Granted, it's totally admirable to put towards college, but it's not cool to expect others to go without, so she doesn't have to pay. I also disagree with of course your daughter's life changed since you got married, so what does dropping something really matter? Consistency in other areas like activities would be important with the change in new step-family adjustments. Also, you said your stepdaughter has a dad. Why isn't he paying? It shouldn't be up to you and your daughter to cover. Your wife's expectations are not fair to your daughter. Don't do it. Zoe didn't get married. If you do this, expect anger and bitterness to rule the roost. And if a wife causes anger and bitterness, it's good to know now so you can see how you want to handle these issues of "you don't love my daughter as much as you love your daughter" and other such manipulations. Good luck.